Hello everyone, welcome to this month's episode of North Central Outdoors. I'm your host, Nathan Karch. Today we're going to talk about a combination of topics, starting with spring turkey, following some stuff that you can do in the woods this time of year, transitioning to some spring fishing, and then on to our summer boating season. So let's dive on in. Going into the spring 2022 turkey season, we're right there in the middle of it. We've got up until May 15th to harvest your 3 birds, and you know, it's always a great time to get out in the year. It's cooler weather in the mornings. It warms up really fast. The vegetation is blooming everywhere. It's just a great time of year. You hear the turkeys gobbling on the roost, and hopefully everybody gets an opportunity to get out there and get you a bird. It's fantastic meat if you've never had wild turkey. But yes, you've got until May 15th to get you 3 birds. The statewide bag limit is 3 birds, or 3 bearded birds, and you can harvest 1 per day. So get out there, and I hope you have an opportunity to do that. The methods that you can use are shotgun and archery methods, and the licenses that you'll need to buy for shotgun is going to be your type 009, that's going to be your gun supplemental license, and then archery is your type 010 or type 10, and that's your archery. Be mindful that if you buy these licenses for turkey, that they are also valid for deer season as well. So you don't need to purchase them twice. So if you've got gun or archery or both, you don't need to buy that gun supplemental or archery supplemental during deer season. You're already squared away. If you've not got hunter education under your belt yet, please do that. If you're operating on the apprentice license for the remainder of the season, before deer season comes underway, please go ahead and try to get that. It's a great class, and it's needed by law. Anyone born after January 1st of 1969 is required by law to have hunter education. If you have hunter education from a different state, we do recognize that you won't have to take ours, and vice versa. If you take it in our state and you move somewhere else, it's usually recognized. It's kind of like the handgun carry permit law. It's reciprocal, so many other states in the U.S. recognize that, and you won't have to take it again. The hunter education class is now exclusively online. We implemented that back in COVID just for convenience sake, and people wouldn't have to go out to a physical location. They could still get that education online. Now you don't even have to attend a live fire date or go to a physical location to make sure that you can handle a firearm safely. We do encourage that if you have an opportunity, but you don't have to. There are 2 ways to do that. You can get on our state website and attend hunter education, or go through the NRA. Both of them are completely free, and both of them allow you to save your progress as you go, so it's very convenient. It really helps working into your busy schedule. Also, for turkey season, make sure that if you harvest a turkey that you tag your bird in or check it in. There's 2 ways of doing that. You can do it online, or you can go to a physical licensing agent and have them check it in at that physical location. So I want to talk about our TWRA app for a second. That's going to revert back to the online check-in process. We have a free TWRA app. It's called TWRA On The Go. Completely free. Download it on your Android or your iPhone, and it's got tons of good information. You can sync up your TWRA profile. You can buy your licenses from that app. You can check sunrise, sunset tables, look at hunting, fishing, boating regulations, fish identification, all kinds of awesome information right there, and you can check your deer or your bird in at your fingertips from that app. So I encourage you, please download that, and it's a great resource to have. Also, to finalize the turkey segment, again, you cannot bait. I know I harp on that for all of our previous segments regarding big game. No baiting is allowed. When I say baiting, it's illegal whenever you intend to hunt over it or harvest an animal over bait. So if you're throwing out corn or wheat or anything like that for the turkeys, that's fine if you're just wanting to watch them. But as soon as you bring a weapon into it and you're wanting to hunt that animal, you're baiting, and that is illegal here in Tennessee. So do not bait. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to our regional office. our regional office, you can contact them at 615-781-6581. And then you could also email me if you have any questions as well. My email is nathan.karch@tn.gov. And if you have any violations to report, we always love to have those tips as well, because you are our eyes and our ears. We couldn't do our job without the public, so we appreciate you. On to some other things that you can be doing in the woods at this time of year. You can be shed hunting. Most of the buck's antlers have already fallen off, or they should have, and they're now growing. They should be in velvet, and they should have already, you know, established at least 1, 2, maybe even 3 inches of growth by now. So fresh sheds are on the ground. This is a great time of the year that you can go find them, and the squirrels have not already eaten them up. They tend to fall around bedding area, food sources and stuff like that. So that's where I would look first, but you can find them anywhere. They'll be on trails, all kinds of different places. And I know everything's greening up, so they're gonna be a little harder to find, but if you're turkey hunting or predator hunting out there in the woods, or just hiking, you might fall on some sheds. So hope you can do that. Also, this time of year, every time spring turkey rolls around is a fantastic time, and it's the only time of the year that you can actually find morel mushrooms, or dryland fish, as some people call them. They are a delicacy. I myself, I don't even like mushrooms, but I love these mushrooms. They've got a very meaty texture, and there's all kinds of different ways to cook them, but they're only out in the woods this time of year, usually after a good rain and the night temperatures are above 55 to 60 degrees. You can find them in the next 3 or 4 days if the temperatures are right, and they'll be popping up everywhere. So go out and look for some morels. Transitioning on to some spring fishing, the only season that I want to address is the paddlefish season. Paddlefish season is open right now and extends all the way to May 31st. The things to be mindful about paddlefish is usually you have to snag for them. That's really your only method of catching them. And you have to snag outside of 100 yards below a dam. So most people always snag below a dam, just in swift current when they're generating or they're spilling. Make sure that you're outside that 100-yard zone, and that starts at the face of the dam. If you're within that, that's considered a conservation area. That's kind of where they stack up and they feed. And if you are within that 100-yard zone and you are snagging, you're subject to fine and potential confiscation of your gear. So please be mindful of that. You're allowed 2 paddlefish per day, and there's no culling. And culling just means if you catch your 2 fish and you still want to fish and you snag a bigger paddlefish, then you are then 1 paddlefish over your limit. You cannot replace that 1 paddlefish with a smaller one and throw the other one back, just due to high mortality rate. So be mindful of that. Also, make sure you have the appropriate licenses. That is just going to be your type 001, or if you have a sportsman's license or a lifetime license, those will obviously suffice. But definitely have your base hunt fish combo, which is your type 001, in order to fish. There's all kinds of other opportunities if you like traditional methods. The bass, smallmouth, largemouth, striped, white, hybrids, the crappie, the shellcracker, they're all running right now, and lots of people are having a tremendous amount of luck with the water temperatures on the rise. They're being very active, so go out there and catch you some fish. The next, I'm gonna go on to the 2022 summer boating season. So there's some things to be mindful of right off the bat when you're getting into boating, and that is the safety requirements and safety equipment that we look for. So first and foremost, your most important thing is going to be your life jackets or your PFDs. Make sure that you have an adequate amount of PFDs on board your boat to suffice for every individual occupant on board. And they need to be in good working condition, readily accessible in case there is a water emergency, and they need to be able to fit everybody on board. So if you have children on board, you need to have an adequate number of children's life jackets. If you have a bigger person on board, it needs to be a big life jacket on board. Everybody needs to be comfortable in their life jackets, and every one of them must be U.S. Coast Guard approved. We often get questions about the ones that are self-inflating, that have the pull tabs, or maybe they're automatic. Those are fine, but they have to be worn in order to count towards your limit of PFDs. So if they're not being worn, they do not count. So also, you cannot use those inflating life jackets when you're riding a PWC or a jet ski. Those don't count. It must be an inherently buoyant, U.S. Coast Guard approved to be used and operated on a PWC. Also, those that are using paddlecraft, kayaks, canoes, paddle boards, you are not required to wear a life jacket when you are using those types of paddlecraft, but a life jacket must be present on board with you. Unless you are under the age of 12 years of age or older, they don't have to be in it, but under 12, you have to be in a life jacket at all times, and that applies to vessels as well. So if you're on a boat, unless it is moored or at anchor, children under 12 must be in a life jacket at all times. If that vessel is in motion, they've got to be worn. It's extremely important. Also, vessels that are 16 feet and greater in length are required by law to have a Type 4 throwable device. That's just a throw cushion. It's usually a square cushion with handles on both sides, and that's just utilized in an emergency situation where a swimmer is in distress and you need to toss it out so they have some sort of buoyancy. If you've ever tried to throw a life jacket, it doesn't work out so well, so that's why we require these throw cushions. Also, fire extinguishers. If you have an encapsulated, self-contained gas compartment or gas storage system, gas tank, you have to have a fire extinguisher on board. If you have a halon system, that's fine. That will suffice in place of a fire extinguisher. If you have like a John boat or a duck boat that has the portable gas tank and it's not self-contained or encapsulated, then you don't need a fire extinguisher, but it is encouraged. Always good to have a fire extinguisher just in case a fire breaks out with your motor or anything like that. And then your navigation lights. If you plan on operating after legal sunset, your navigation lights must be functional, so test them prior to you getting out there and it gets dark and you realize your navigation lights don't work. Make sure they're tested and they're in working order. Take some spare bulbs, take some spare fuses, and just in case one of them goes out while you're out on the water. Most importantly, your stern light, which is going to be your all-around white light. It must be visible from 360 degrees. It needs to be the highest point of your vessel. I know a lot of manufacturers, they don't make them that way, and it really does, for your safety, it needs to be the all-around highest point of the vessel. So if you have any type of obstructions, wakeboard towers, bimini tops, anything like that, make sure that you can get it a little bit higher so it can be visible from 360 degrees. That way, if you're running at night, other vessels can see your orientation in the water and can take early and substantial action to avoid a collision. And then, not necessarily a safety requirement, but is required by law, make sure that you have proper registration on your boat and that is valid. If your boat is on the water, then you must have Tennessee valid registration. Or if you are coming from another state and you don't plan to stay here too long, you don't need to get Tennessee registration, obviously. You can run off your state's registration. And then finally, to kind of wrap this up, we really encourage responsible boaters. Do not drive under the influence. Do not drive or operate under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or medication. Be responsible, have a sober driver. We take this very seriously. We crack down on this every single year. We have tons of saturation details where we target boaters under the influence, and we try to get them off of our waterways because we want everybody to go home safe and to their families. We don't want anybody to have a tragic boating accident or anything like that, or a drowning. So make sure you have a sober driver. There are tons of environmental factors that compound those effects. You've got the heat, the waves, the noises, the wind out there. So it's a lot heavier on the water than it is if you're doing it, out in a sporting environment, sporting event or something like that at your home. It's just compounded tremendously on the water. So take that into account. and just be a responsible boater. So that wraps up this month's episode of North Central Outdoors. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to email me or call me. My number is 615-571-0329. I am Sumner County Wildlife Officer, a part of District 21, which is a 12-county district. And if I can't get you in touch with the right personnel, I will find somebody who can, okay? We appreciate you. I hope everybody gets an opportunity to get that out there and maybe harvest a turkey for the first time, do some fishing, and do some boating. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.